Hello, it's me, Aaron, and do you hate Dark Souls 2? Do you want to strangle Tomohiro Shibuya and Yuri Tanimura? Well, you're in luck, because I've got just the thing for you. Welcome to this step-by-step guide on how to appreciate Dark Souls 2, so you stop being such a baby bitch about it and man up to become a Dark Souls 2 enjoyer. So, let's get started. Let's redempt Dark Souls 2. But now, you need to get in with the right mindset. I mean, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you're willing to give ds2 a chance, but if you're like, as if you can change my mind, bitch, you stupid bird, then stop. And now that that's out of the way, let's take a step back and start recognizing what Dark Souls 2 has done. I just want you to be aware, to know what you're even talking about when you say it's bad, because Dark Souls 2 might just be the most experimental and creative Souls game. Like, Dark Souls 2 invented so much stuff, and you dumb Elden Souls 3 zoomers, you won't even realize that. So, just to name a few: Shockwave, Repair, Chameleon, Acid Surge, Warmth, Lingering Flame, Dance of Flame, Solo Peas, Unveil, Dead Again, Life Drain Patch, Promised Walk of Peace, Profound Still, weapons that cast spells, weapons that shoot slowing goo, weapons that heal allies when hit, tons of hybrid moveset weapons, weapons that scale off of the host NG Plus cycle, weapons with infinite durability, weapons that scale off souls held, so many things that alter the combat in interesting ways, and no other Souls game is even close to reaching that level of experimentation and creativity arsenal-wise. And this isn't even all. There's even like a 50-minute limit breaker video talking about even more things, like being able to knock on and destroy doors, brightness affecting lock-on, being able to see invisible enemies with an item from the DLC, being able to give clothes to an NPC, tons, and I mean tons of interactable things, the pick quest, invisible butterflies throughout the map, crazy ass covenants, being able to revive NPCs, chest traps. Yeah, it is insane and awesome, the amount of gimmicky stuff present in ds2, and you cannot deny that all of this is simply amazing. Next is something that a lot of people didn't even take the time to know after finishing the game. It's slow. One of the things that make the Souls game so good is just that. People won't stop praising it, and rightfully so, but I haven't seen enough people praise ds2's lore. It's great and worth exploring just like every other Souls game. And like, I'm pretty sure that 75% of the time, ds2 haters didn't even bother to learn about the lore. Imagine if you never knew about ds1's lore. You would appreciate the game less, wouldn't you? So I think it's valuable in liking ds2 to actually make an effort to know it, because there's as much valuable things under the surface as other Souls games. Like, you, watching this, if you don't know shit about ds2 lore, well, I'd recommend to go take a look. It's some good stuff, I promise you. And that's not even taking into account that it has as much great NPCs. I mean, Locatil, Shenalot, Rosabeth, Gavlan, Creighton, Onifex, Strayed, and much more. Even if you don't like some stuff, you can't just discard everything else, to the point of individual NPC questlines that I'm 100% sure you would otherwise praise if they were in other Souls games. My point with this is, a lot of people have double standards when they talk about Dark Souls 2, and I really feel like they would love a lot more things about ds2 if those things weren't part of the big bad evil Dark Souls 2. Like, may I remind you of all those great things you seem to be ignoring, and that, by the way, Miyazaki was a supervisor. Like, really, the game isn't the worst game of all time. It really, really isn't. It's of course flawed, just like every Souls game, but like, how can you consider Shrine of Mana, Frigid's Outskirts, etc. unredeemable flaws when you overlook or accept, I don't know, Lost Italeth? Like, sure, there's some terrible bosses in ds2, but those bosses still have what makes other bad Souls game bosses not that terrible. They still have lore, like artistic value, like they still have some sort of value that many people ignore. Another thing is Dark Souls 2, even if itself you don't like or want to play, you can't deny that it also teaches a lot from software in some cherished mechanics we would have never had if Dark Souls 2 hadn't invented them. In some terrible mechanics we maybe would have suffered in other Souls games if Dark Souls 2 wasn't here to be the test subject. Of course, again, Dark Souls 2 is still heavily flawed. Horrible boss runbacks, incredible jankiness that, unlike for example ds1, wasn't concentrated in 3 last areas, but instead the whole game, terrible bosses, overpopulated areas like holy shit, Dark Souls 2 enemies fuck, I'll tell you that, flawed mechanics like ADP, but does it deserve to be hated? I don't think so. Dark Souls 2 is way too overhated. And it's a shame it gets disregarded instantly in most circles, or regarded as a good game but bad Souls game, or being the last modern Souls game to carry the torch of engaging mechanics, easily towering over Dark Souls 3's summon 3 people, blend the enemies in a straight line to the boss, get bonfire 3 feet away from boss, and retry over and over until you can do it again in the next wet looking grey area with a different accenting color. Honestly, the whole entire Dark Souls 2 hate train that's been going on for 9 fucking years without anyone looking back is just the biggest I'ma pretend I didn't see that moment. Like, dude, oh, you like the level design of Dark Souls 1? Well, you can go to any lord in any order you want. And sure, it's not as interconnected, but you have to recognize that it is right after ds1 in terms of the most interconnected Souls game. Oh, you like gimmicks? Well, here's a few billions in every possible categories. Oh, you like NPCs? We have Scaly Lady, Homeless Lady, Not Patches, Germa, Wheel and Deal, Feeble Ghost One, Rat Bastard and Cat Bitch, Dummy Thick Birdie. Oh, you like bosses? We have a few stinkers, but may I remind you, Pursuer, Glass Knight, Sinner, Sentinels, Smelter, Valstat, Dark Lurker, Watcher and Defender, Sin, Fume Knight, Sir Alone, and Burnt Ivory King. And you might say Dark Souls 2 is a ton of really creative ideas, executed haphazardly throughout the game, that in the end ended up with a janky 50-50 ratio of shit and awesomeness, and you wouldn't be wrong. What I wanted this video to achieve is simply to make Dark Souls 2 be more appreciated, for its lore that many have not bothered to uncover, for its courage to make so many changes and add so many experimental things, for its creativity, and for its concepts, ideas, weapons, gimmicks, and bosses that did work in the end. So this video made you, even a tiny bit more, appreciate Dark Souls 2, or maybe even made you start another playthrough, and might I even say, more of a Chad ds2 enjoyer, then I consider this video to have accomplished its purpose and been a success. Anyways, thank you for watching. Your presence until the end is appreciated, and bye I guess.